First of all, I'll say this. For a Tuesday morning crowd, I'm impressed with how many people are here this morning. Normally, for those of you who are first-time chart attendees, the Tuesday morning crowd is about half this size and slowly starts to trickle in. My guess is that means that many of you went to South Beach and are still up. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign. So one of the messages here at Chart that we've been preaching and doing a great job of over the last 10 years or so is the need to give back to our communities. Right? We started doing this by having a service project at the spring conference. It expanded to the summer conference. It goes on with Share Our Strength. Many of us now are contributing to a volunteerism project, maybe through a scholarship fund or something in our home communities. In fact, let me do a quick study here in the room. How many of you do some sort of volunteering somewhere in either your communities, here at a Chart conference, somewhere else? Raise your hand if you do some sort of volunteering. I can't see so well in the light, but that looks like approximately 95%. Okay, just about everybody in the room does some sort of volunteering, which is great. But here's what I'm going to tell you right now. Stop volunteering. Stop volunteering. Why? Because you are too valuable. It's time to stop volunteering in our communities and start voluntelling. What's the difference between volunteering and voluntelling? Volunteering is when you simply give of yourself. Volunteering is when you give of yourself and you think of yourself at the same time. What do I mean by this? Take advantage of your volunteering opportunities for your own personal gain. You're like, Josh, I give because it feels good. I give because I give back to my community. I want to feel like I'm doing something great. You still will. But what I'm going to tell you is you're too valuable. You're too valuable. You're too valuable. And you're too valuable to give yourself away. What you need to do is find ways to start taking advantage of your volunteering opportunities. Because it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. You don't have to either be good or do good by yourself. You can do both at the same time, and in fact, you owe it to yourself. So let me tell you a little story about a person I call Josh. He could be anybody, but in this case, we'll call him Josh. All right? So in 2000 and, let's call it 2002, July, I was working as a training manager for a very small hotel company in Denver, Colorado, and I got the opportunity to volunteer to do a 1-hour training session for the Denver Metro Convention and Visitors Bureau to do some sort of hospitality training for this little thing. Well, I did that session, they loved it, and they invited me back. And then the next year that I did it, they loved it. And in fact, the president of the Convention and Visitors Bureau at the time, who happened to be the CEO of a larger hotel company, loved it a lot. And when I got done doing that second session, he went to the person who was sort of training with me and working with me, who was there at the bureau, and said to her, "Who is that guy? I need him to work for me." And in January of 2004, I was hired as the director of training at Sage Hospitality Resources, where he was the CEO, because he got a chance to see me when I was volunteering. I then went on to make a full day session out of it. We did a whole day. I was volunteering an entire day of my time, plus the content, the delivery, everything else to get it started. And in fact, in March of 2006, they went to 2 full-day sessions where I got a chance to volunteer and give back to the community. It was a really, really big deal. One of the amazing things that happened in that same time period, in January of 2008, Denver was awarded the 2008 Democratic National Convention. For those of you who aren't political, it really doesn't matter. Here's the big deal. It's a huge event with a bunch of volunteers. It was the closest Denver, Colorado will probably ever get to hosting the Olympics. Yes, it's that big a deal. And I thought to myself, what if? And I had this vision in my head. I said, you know what would be really awesome? It would be really awesome if I could do the volunteer training for all of the volunteers of the DNC. Like, wouldn't that be awesome? So I decided in January of 2008 to take a risk. So I went and told my boss, I said, you know what? The Convention Visitors Bureau is getting ready for the convention. I need to go and be an executive on loan to help them get the city ready for the convention. And my boss said, great, you can do that part-time while you're still doing your job full-time. I said, let's do it. And I signed up on board and started doing a citywide program to get the city ready. In July of 2008, as we're getting the city ready for the convention, I get a call from the host committee who calls me into a meeting with a bunch of other people, and they're sitting down and they're talking about what they're gonna do and some volunteer training, and I'm sitting at the table with all the execs from the DNC, and they say to me, Josh, I'm curious, do you think you might have time to do the volunteer training for all of our volunteers here? I know you're really busy. Do you think you might have the opportunity to do that? And I'm here trying to keep a straight face, trying not to jump out of my chair and go, yes! That was my moment. Because maybe you don't realize, when you get a chance to do this, you are a rock star for a day. And in fact, if you've never gotten a chance to train 5,000 people at one time, a record number of volunteers, over 10,000 at the entire convention, it is an amazing experience. And I did it because I stopped volunteering and I said, I'm going to do something for myself and something for the community at the same time. So here's how you can stop volunteering and start volunteering. Some very 6 simple steps for you. Number 1, the first thing you have to do is to de-jargonate. A new word I just made up. What do I mean? When we volunteer for organizations, we oftentimes assume that everyone else knows exactly what the organization does and how passionate they are about it, right? Share Our Strength. You say, oh yeah, I'm doing some great work for Share Our Strength. People who have no idea are like, oh, is that like a bodybuilding organization? What are you doing? You need to clearly communicate who it is that you're volunteering for, what it is, and why you're so passionate about it. When you do that, you'll be successful because people will understand why it is you're doing what you're doing. Second thing, you have to be your own rooster. One of the problems we have as trainers is we're such nice people, right? You know, I like people and I want people to like me, but I'm not going to sit on the rooftop and tell people how great. That's what valuations are for. That's why everyone gives me 10s, right? That's why I do that. No, you need to be the one out crowing. You need to be the one out telling people what you're doing and why you're doing it, because no one else is going to do it for you. So be your own rooster, crow your own song, and don't worry if it looks like you're being a little arrogant, because you're doing it for good, right? You're telling people about the work that you're doing in the community. Very important. Number 3, this is a lesson I learned the hard way. Nobody talks to the help. I've done a number of volunteer jobs where you go and you help out and you're in the back room. Or you're helping to serve a little bit, or you're doing a little bit of this. If you want to grow as a leader, if you want to use and leverage your volunteer opportunities, stop being the help. Step into a leadership role. Step up to the mic. Be willing to take that chance. Maybe it's in chart. Right? Maybe you volunteer for a conference committee or you get on the board, or maybe it's at your local animal shelter where instead of now just volunteering on Saturdays to help wash dogs, you're helping to coordinate the effort. Maybe you're leading a ride for MS or something else, but you're the one taking charge because no one's going to talk to the help. I hate to tell you this, but it's so true. On the flip side, those of you in the room who are managers, who are leaders of people, here's what I'm going to tell you. Voluntelling is the greatest opportunity for you to give back to your team. Find out what they're doing. Find out when they're hosting an event and volunteer your time for them. If they're raising money for a cause, give money every time. If they're hosting an event, show up and volunteer for your people. Again, it seems like it's common sense, but the number of leaders who forget this opportunity to give back is staggering. Look for ways to leverage yourself too. See beyond the moment you're in and try and find ways that you can take advantage. Look for yourself. Right? When you think about orientation, right? We all do or have done some sort of new hire orientation. The reality is this: you don't just do basic training. We don't just do what's required, right? We also do culture. We do some icebreakers. We get people comfortable. We're not just teaching them the basics. Same thing with volunteering. Don't just stick to the basics. Find ways to get yourself engaged. And finally, the final step is this. Everyone do me a favor. Everyone stand up. This is one of my old but favorite ones. If you've done this one before, it's not a problem because it works every time. Put your hands out in front of you like this. Point your fingers. Now everyone know your left from your right? Yes? Okay, we're going to go, and when I say go, you're going to keep your feet right here. You're just going to twist at your waist. You're going to move your hands, and you're going to go as far as you can to the left and point to a spot on the wall. All right? Go. Far as you can to the left, find a spot, point to it, and come back. Kind of feels good. Gets you working out. All right, here's what I want you to do. Keep your hands up here. Do you remember the spot you pointed to? All right, what you're going to do now is you're going to twist, only you're going to go further than that spot. Do you think you can do it? All right, twist, further, back. How many people went further? Right? The reason you went further is because you saw beyond the moment. Find your aha moment. Stretch further than you think you can go because you're worth it. Stop volunteering, start voluntelling.